many of the people that you've delivered water to confided in you, or or or, or shared with you really the things that they're going through and what they're trying to do and for the future and their state of mind at the time? Do you have you had the opportunity to be shared with on some of these occasions?
Um, to be honest, not really. I mean, I guess there was one person in particular who would kind of express like, oh, like, you know, this was really troubling her, and like she was more vocal. I feel like she was confided in us a little bit, but also that very same person was extremely private and very protective of like her information. But I'm trying to think. I mean, when we go to deliver water, we try to be cheerful and brief. And yeah. So a lot of the things that I, know about people's struggles are things that I hear from my friends who are more involved, and then some context clues, like things that I just observe when I'm there, like they were outside of their house, because yeah.
Could you what are some neighborhoods or locations that you've been to, or are they across the board? Um, could you give an idea of what are some areas that are there some areas that you keep going to more often than not?
Well, I requested to deliver to homes that were on the east and northeast side, because that's closer to Hamtramck. So in case like I had to stop by my house or something, it would be more convenient. But there's occasionally I'll be asked to go to a different neighborhood, like Northwest Detroit. I know that all over the city there's shutoffs, but the people that we deliver to are people who have heard about the hotline, and so a lot of people might not have heard about the hotline, so there could be like a word of mouth thing going on.
So you and the water volunteers are obviously forming a great support network for some of these people who have been affected. Have you had occasion to witness other forms of social support that might be available to them? Like, have you ever seen, for instance, family members or friends hanging around there, or sort of helping patch up a home, or do something like that? Or
there was one time where we were worried about, we were delivering to a man and we didn't, his phone was out. So we wanted to make sure he was okay. And his neighbor saw us dropping off water and knocking on the door, and he said, oh, I just saw him, he was out, I come here to check on him like every couple days. So that was very sweet to know that this man who lives alone, who you could tell had a rich family life, but they've since gone or moved to other places, I'm not sure, that he still has neighbors who are looking out for him. That was very sweet. And then I've certainly seen just tightness of family, like I said, how grandparents watched for grandkids, and the kids might come by, and if their parents are working, they might come by and put the water inside for their parents. Yeah.
So you've been doing this for 2 years, 3 years now?
2016, the summer of 2016 is when I started, so 2.5 years.
So based on when you started, can you reflect on how effective, I guess, you see this program as being? If there's any sort of room for improvement, perhaps.
I think the water delivery program is it's in response to an emergency. It's people need water to live. So this is a grassroots effort to do it. If anyone would like to donate to We the People, they are happy to accept water donations. But it's a grassroots effort. And there's this pattern that we're seeing where what used to be, services that were provided by the government are increasingly falling upon grassroots efforts to provide. And I mean, I know that the city of Detroit has payment plans, but from what I've read and heard, I don't believe they're the most realistic payment plans, especially if someone on a fixed income has a particularly large bill that they have to pay. There's two programs. There's the 10/30/50, and then there's RAP. And I've heard that. So I don't know which program has this issue, but I've heard that putting a down payment can be a struggle, and then also paying off debt while paying a current bill is a struggle for someone on a fixed income. So one thing I would like to see that and like I said, I don't study this, like I'm only kind of informed, but speaking as a citizen, I would love to see more affordability, like that it is based on income. That's an area for improvement, and also just realistic payment plans that people can actually achieve.
What about improvements to the water delivery system itself? Is there some way, do you have any feedback or response to that? Because that's what you are a part of, you have been experiencing. So in terms of the existing water delivery program, the volunteer program, what are your thoughts about its effectiveness?
I think it's very effective based on considering that it's shoestring budget, grassroots, but I think that the goal that I see is that different neighborhoods, and I think they've had this at different points in time, but right now St. Peter's is the primary water drop-off, the water station they call it. It would be great if different neighborhoods across the city could have water stations, and even if there were no water shutoffs, this just makes sense. Like if there was a disaster, a natural disaster, not a human-caused disaster, it would be amazing to just go to your local water station and get bottled water. So that's the goal, I think. And aside from a moratorium on water shutoffs, that's the huge goal. But just in terms of preparedness, I think water stations would be a great thing.
Do you have busy days and light days when you're volunteering, or do you uniformly have the same responsibilities and load as far as delivery is concerned?
Sometimes I do 2 deliveries and sometimes I do 1. I think it depends on the other volunteers' availability, because there are several other regular volunteers who are very committed, but things happen, like somebody's car broke, or and another person, they had a job where they were able to come for their lunch shift, but then that changed. So, things happen.
You just had a delivery last week. Can I ask you to reflect on the process from beginning to end without necessarily divulging anyone's identity?
Okay. I went to St. Peter's Church. I drove there in a car. So also having a car is very important to delivering. I drove there in a car. I parked it. I saw another volunteer and greeted them. I was happy to see him. I saw the volunteer coordinator, who's just awesome, and we hugged. And then she took me to the water closet, and she told me where I was going to go, and we picked out we deliver cases of bottled water because that's what gets donated. Ideally, we would get, people really love it when in the past we've gotten larger containers donated, because that makes their life easier and it's less plastic. But what we get is cases of bottled water, and we load them up onto a cart, and we cart it over to the door and carry it over to our cars. and then I say goodbye. I drive to the home. Maybe I'll listen to the radio on the way. I get to the home, and I used to call on the way, but I found that knocking on the door when you get there usually works, unless it's somebody who's working, and then you have to call so that their neighbor can come and pick up the water. And so I did that. I went to one home. I knocked on the door. They helped me bring it in. I said, "Have a great Friday," and I left and went home and walked my dog.
So it was just that one delivery?
Yep, but I usually do two. So it must have been a day where maybe someone, I don't really know the situation. I don't really ask. I just flow.
You talked about safety a few times earlier. Can you reflect a little bit about that in terms of maybe the precautions you take when you, or maybe the things that you're thinking of when you're driving into a neighborhood that you don't associate with too much with safety? So I guess this is sort of more like a thinking question where you think about how do you account for safety, your own safety, when you're going to different neighborhoods for delivering water? Or are there some strategies that you don't do anymore because they're just so commonplace right now in your head, and you're just used to the entire situation?
That's a good question. I don't feel like there's anything in particular that I do for safety when I'm doing the water deliveries that I don't do in my day-to-day life. I am a woman, and I'm a little paranoid. So I'm always kind of thinking, no matter where I am, like, do I have all of my things in like a secure place? Am I, who's around me? Because I don't like listen to earbuds. I don't like doing those things because I want to know like who's around me, and I'm not. Yeah, so like I said, I don't take any special precautions because, I don't know.
This is, I guess, a big picture question. Where do you personally see the water movement, the water security movement, headed to here in Detroit?
Where do I see the water security movement heading in Detroit?
Yeah, I mean, do you see an end in sight, or do you see yourself continuing to volunteer, having to volunteer to deliver water to people on an ongoing basis for several more years going forward?
That's a great question, and I haven't really thought about that critically, but when I think about the future of the water security movement in Detroit, I think about what's happening on a national scale, and there's a lot of momentum right now for a new Green Deal, or Green New Deal, I can never get it right, but I think of what's happening in I know in my heart that these things can't just, the status quo is just not gonna continue forever. Like, climate change is getting, we're feeling the effects of climate change more, and the economy is, always an uncertainty, and I think, who knows what will happen in a couple years, but I'm hoping that coalition building might help amplify all of these issues that are related, like the foreclosure crisis, the water shutoff crisis, making the affordable housing in general is kind of a crisis. Transportation justice, environmental justice, like if all these organizations working on these things can continue to build coalitions like they have been for decades, then I think we could make some progress. But I'm being very vague because I've never been like a look to the future person. It's not my personality, so I don't know.
Well, thinking right now, who owns the water?
Water doesn't belong to anybody, in my opinion, but you could certainly argue that, you know, that the infrastructure is owned. So, because somebody built it and somebody had to fund the building of it. So in the case of Detroit, the taxpayers of Detroit were the ones who funded the pipes that deliver our water. And so there's a huge argument that the transfer of DWSD into Great Lakes Water Authority was kind of an attack on, you know, Detroiters, like, it was kind of like stealing what Detroiters had paid for. And I don't know, but what I do firmly believe is that that nobody owns water. Water just belongs to the planet, and yeah.
Do you think we should be pricing water?
I know that water costs money to treat, and it costs money to repair the infrastructure. Money goes into researching these, you know, emerging contaminants. I know that. So yes, I do think that we should be paying for water and we should be investing in water, but I don't think people should be making money off of water. All of the money that we pay for water should be going into improvements and not profit.
Is there a fair price?
Well, I'm really a big proponent of the affordability plan, and the fact that people who are able to pay for water should, and even people who are not able to pay a lot for water can probably pay a little bit based on their income, but nobody should be denied access to water. And I'm saying that because I live in a country where we're building skyscrapers, and we have 4G, and like 5G is coming next, and like, so we can do all these things. Like, why can't we just like share water? Why do we have to be greedy? I don't know.
So you are an ordinary person, a citizen who got inspired to become a water volunteer, a warrior. Is there what role? That's your journey. What role do other ordinary citizens or residents have, do you think, to play in addressing this crisis?
That's a good question. I believe that ordinary citizens can have a variety of roles. I wish that more people in general took an interest in civic issues. I feel like there's a lot of individualism in this country, which is so cool. Like, I'm into like being an individual, but I also think that it's kind of damaging when you say, well, I'm just going to do what I'm going to do and like, you know, forget about everybody else, because what if one day you need help? Like, who's going to help you? So I'm a firm believer in paying it forward, and also just like recognizing that whatever I have, I didn't get like purely on my own. I got from a lot of other different things kind of happening, you know, including privilege. So I know I know I'm kind of rambling, but the main thing I want to say is I wish that people took an interest in civic issues, and whatever role that they feel they can play, they should do it. And it might not be delivering water. Some people might prefer to, for instance, using the water as an example, they might prefer to volunteer on the hotline. They might prefer to educate. They might prefer to protest. I don't know, there's lots of things you could do.
Do you find your engagement, because you're also a PhD candidate and student
Master's
teacher,
candidate.
huh?
Master's candidate.
So you're also a master's candidate and you're in higher education. Do you find your work with water insecurity in some way shaping your studies and your future career plans?
I don't know. The class I teach is about life diversity. But you know, I teach about protists that are, you know, what can cause waterborne illnesses, and I think I may have mentioned there's been like an outbreak in waterborne illnesses since the water shutoffs. You know, like I might kind of throw things in there, but right now, to be honest, I feel like the water deliveries happen on this day, and then like other things happen on these other days. And I feel like academia is very siloed from activism. Yeah.
Thank you, Julia. Are there any other issues that we have not covered already that you think we should discuss related to this issue?
I guess I don't think so. Maybe if I think I've said this, but I want to maybe elaborate really quickly. I do think that even if people don't take an active role in the water crisis, because like everybody has their own issue that they're passionate about, I do wish to just see more of a change in the mainstream narrative about water. I wish to do away with the, well, they just don't want to pay their bills, because that is just not the reality. And I wish more people would just think a little bit before they offered their opinion. Like, you know, maybe they think they know what's going on, but they probably don't. And so, yeah.
If you think your the people that you deliver water to, if you think we could ask them that question right now, what do you think they might say?
About the burning issues?
And well, in terms of last words or something that they'd like us to take away from this.
I think they might not say it like this, but I think they would say, like, I'm working really hard and I just want to live my life. Like, I just want my kids to be healthy, and I just want to live a life where I can thrive. And I'm working really hard to do that. I think that's what I think they say, so.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So, look at rule when you answer.
Okay.
What's your greatest hope regarding the water situation?
I'd like to see all the water shutoffs be restored. I'd like no more additional shutoffs to residential homes specifically, and that a water affordability plan would be implemented